what's your sense of what they do now? Any sense of what they would do? I mean, there's some hardcore folks that are saying, they're either going to go with Biden potentially or sit it out. I don't know. What is your sense of that Never Trump movement as it stands today?
I don't think it's as large as what the media would have you believe. And in fact, it's the recurring usual faces that you see on television. It's very interesting. I left Fox in 2017, January 2017, and was doing media hits constantly until February of 2018 when I said I was going to vote for the president in 2020. And suddenly the media hits completely disappeared. I've done very little since I said I would support the president. And a lot of these guys are the same ones. They go on TV, some of them dear friends of mine, but the common trait is that they're not social conservatives. Not a single one of them cares about abortion as an issue. To the extent they do, they're pro-abortion. And so it's easier for them to go with a Democrat than someone like me who is a Christian and is pro-life and won't vote for a pro-abortion candidate. They'll go with Joe Biden, and a lot of them, you're seeing some, will try to dismiss the progressivism of some of these candidates. I think it's going to be funny. Let's say, worst case scenario, Joe Biden picks a very progressive running mate and wins, and they prove to be as progressive as many of us claim. The very same people who will never acknowledge that Donald Trump's done good will finally either have to acknowledge that they really were progressive all along, or that, wow, it turns out the Democrats actually did do a lot of stuff I didn't like.
Interesting. I'm wondering about the pushback that you received when you were a Never Trumper in 2016. What was that like? And now that you aren't a Never Trumper, has there been pushback? The fact that you're kind of what they would term on the Trump train to a degree?
Yeah, so, I mean, we actually had people show up at our house in 2016 to threaten us after I said, and my office is here and my front porch is right over there. And we had 3 people show up and threaten us for it. My kids were bullied in school. It really wasn't a pleasant time. Even harassed in church for saying I wouldn't support the president. And go to 2018 and I say that I will support the president. And suddenly a lot of media invitations are rescinded. In fact, there was one particular news program I was invited to be on the day I said it. They promptly canceled me after I said I was going to support the president. And I still get this where if I criticize the president, which I still do frequently, and again, I did with George W. Bush, I would with McCain or Romney, so I will with the president. And liberals are just incensed. You seem so reasonable, except you're going to vote for this man. Well, you can agree with something that I'm saying because I'm criticizing him, and you agree with the criticism, but it's because you hate him. You haven't actually thought it through. Yeah. I can vote for someone I disagree with, just as I voted for George W. Bush in 2004, even though there were numerous things I disagreed with him in. By and large, the policies I got from Bush were policies overall I liked, and the same with Trump right now. So we've become so poisoned, I think, as a society, and particularly people who really do internalize their hate for the president. And I talk about this about the media a lot these days, that I think the media bias you're seeing against the president right now is many of the members of the media have internalized it as a moral crusade, and they've got to get rid of Donald Trump, which is why they can blast him for the death toll and totally ignore Andrew Cuomo's handling of the situation in New York with the virus, because this is not about Andrew Cuomo or his handling. It's all about getting rid of Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's interesting. I say that we're in the age of the correspondent. What are you exactly? You're a correspondent by day and then a pundit on CNN at night. I mean, the lines have been very, very blurred. And Donald Trump, warts and all, he's brought out an even more visceral media. And we
really
see everybody
expose a lot of the hypocrisy out there. I say all the time that the president's unique superpower is he has the ability to make other people behave in the way they claim he behaves.
Please expand on that, because that's fascinating. It's like I have you on the Dr. Phil couch. Explain that.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you're saying.
So you take a number of the people who are still very aggressively Never Trump. They believe that the president is a misogynist. You follow them on Twitter, and they make the same sort of misogynist remarks as Donald Trump. They believe that the president is as I will say on radio, a brain biblical donkey. Well, that's how they operate now. They say the president is a temper tantrum and says mean things about other people. Now you have Nancy Pelosi on TV calling him morbidly obese and very proud of herself for saying it. If you think Donald Trump behaves in a particular way, you're going to behave in a particular way. It is not a secret that Michael Avenatti went on television and said all these terrible things about how Donald Trump treated women, and now we know Michael Avenatti treated women terribly.
Good examples. Good examples. Let me ask you. I want to circle back just to one thing you said earlier, which is about, and not that you're going to probably name the media outlet that kind of rescinded that invitation at the last moment, but what was that conversation like afterwards? I mean, what was the, what did you say to them? They say to you? I mean, I would think you would have been frustrated as to what in the world are you all doing here?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to go into names with
Sure.
media outlets, but I was scheduled to be on television that day, and it got canceled. Now there was no explanation for the canceling, and that happens in live television.
Yeah.
But no other will reschedule never got rescheduled, and
Mm.
in probing this over time, it just became very apparent to me there was never an explicit statement that it was because of Donald Trump, but it became very clear that we need to find people in your position who are Republican and don't particularly agree with the president. It's like, that's me. I don't particularly agree with the president on a host of issues, but
Mhm.
suddenly went away. I was doing regular TV appearances for one particular network and suddenly no after saying that I would support the president. And you know, there will be people who hear that and say, well, maybe you're reading more into it. Maybe I'm reading more into it, but every single media hit that I had suddenly starts to go away and they're never rescheduled after doing months of television on a recurring basis. Just seems a little odd.